Years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. Best as I can tell, looking out the window, it is a beautiful Wednesday in Nashville, Tennessee. And yes, we are at our digs at the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue. We have two announcements to make on the show today, one of which I will reveal in about 30 seconds. The other I will reveal in about 18 minutes. Billy.
Yes.
This is aimed at you. I have contacted the Plaster Sports LLC Human Resources Department, and I have let them know that Kelly is out of control and must be punished severely for what he sent you earlier. Without reading it, can you sort of give us just the spirit of what he sent you?
It wasn't kind. That's all I can say about it.
Let's bring Kelly Holcomb in from Murfreesboro. How we doing today?
Good. I just don't need any snide remarks from a peanut gallery. We don't need that.
Really?
Yeah, we don't need, like, Billy needs to sit over there and do his job. And hey, as The Rock used to say, shut your mouth, know your role, and shut your mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Kelly's line yesterday about used your head that other than something than a coat rack on a coat rack, or what,
Okay,
what was that line?
Say that one again.
Use your head besides something other than a hat rack, Hoss. I mean, use your brain a little bit. Let's go. I mean, we got trades going on. Well, he went to another team. Well, what do we think that is? He got traded, Hoss.
I deserve that one. That was a boneheaded mistake right there.
Really, well, and I'm gonna call you out now. I mean, that's just I mess up more than anybody. I mean, I understand that, but like when people, I'm gonna call you out now.
Well, we have figured that out. Now, let me say this: I knew this before we allowed you to enter the inner broadcast sanctum.
The inner sanctum.
Inner sanctum. So, enough of that. There will be a little bit of an announcement at 2:20. I wouldn't call it earth-shattering, but it's good news for the show. There will be a variety of these over the next 6 weeks. With football season coming, this show is gearing up like you all have no clue at this point.
Hope so. I'm ready, man. Football is here. We started training camp and the pros, we're here.
Go Braves.
No. Not now, George. I mean, football's here. Come on. Let's relax on the Braves.
But that doesn't mean we can't say go Braves.
Yeah, but
I mean, we'll say it. We'll say it, but like, yeah.
You don't mean
it. Hey, football season, baby. Let's go.
Look, I feel the same excitement you do. So, Billy, I would assume after the tongue lashing that you've received from Kelly, that your work today on the update will be satisfactory.
Yeah, it's going to be good work.
Is it really?
No insults from Kelly on this one.
I think he's a little shaken right now, George. I think I've frustrated him a little bit. I think I've messed him up some.
Let me put it a couple of different ways. Number one, he's rattled. Number two, I would say that he has taken on water.
Oh, there's no doubt. I wish I could have coached Billy. Like, did you play ball?
I played basketball and baseball. I quit football in this after 2 summer practices in the 7th grade.
That was a good move on your part.
I got so sick of some of the coaches. I I mean, some football coaches will treat you like dirt. I know you know that, Kelly. Now, basketball and baseball, they will at times, but football, it was consistent. So,
Kelly, I was a quarterback in my football days.
oh God.
Is that when they had leather helmets?
5th grade gray Y.
Did you have the Joe Thiesman one bar?
I don't really remember, but I'll tell you this. I figured out very quickly that I didn't like getting hit. And thus, the broadcast career sort of spawned from that. I was deep to receive a kickoff in 4th grade gray Y. Ball comes at me. First of all, what were they thinking putting me back deep?
What were they thinking?
I don't know. There are 11 people coming after me, and I'm like, screw this. And I threw the ball to a friend of mine. Now, what was funny was this friend of mine shows up at a speaking engagement that I'm doing. And so I told the story. I said, Bobby, if you would please stand. And I said, some of you may wonder, how did I get into broadcasting? I said, it started in 4th grade. The bouncing kickoff comes, and I see there are 11 people and their desires to beat the crap out of me. So I flipped the ball to Bobby, who got crushed. And I have to admit, this is nothing to be proud of, but it felt a lot better watching him get crushed than if I would have.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you at least, since you got him crushed, did you at least help him up?
Yeah, I probably did. I mean, but we had some fun with it years later at a speaking engagement. People thought it was hilarious.
You got to be a different type of person to catch punt now. Different now.
And the kickoff running through that wedge at the perfect timing, because
you were the wedge buster.
Right, you'll get the crap kicked out of you.
Yeah, I don't think they took that out of ball though. You can't have a wedge anymore.
Right.
You were the wedge. Like if you were the wedge buster, you were a bad dude, because like I wanted no part of that. And to be a punt returner, like kickoff returns different. But when you're a punt returner, man, no, sir, I'm out on that. I like when he kicks the ball. If I was back there, I'm signaling a fair catch. I'm not even waiting. I'm not waiting to see where it is and see if I can. I'm signaling fair catch right when it comes off his foot.
Yeah.
Speaking of football, football season is here. Titans started training camp. Tennessee and Vandy have started fall camp. Was over at Vandy today.
Braves.
It was good weather. George says go Braves. But we do have some contract news. The Chargers and Justin Herbert have agreed to a 5-year, $262.5 million contract extension. Say he got paid. And man, these quarterbacks are making boatloads of money.
By the way, let's just say it the way it is. Attention, Joe Burrow. Can I be your agent? Because he's next on this massive payday thing. So when you hear this, Kelly, I mean, you do have to kind of sit there and say, damn, I was just a couple of years away from this. I wouldn't have to deal with Billy.
Well, when I told Tony and y'all that yesterday, I literally got out at 2 or 3 years too early. I mean, if I would have stayed in a little bit longer, I mean, they were paying backups $7 million. And now it's just, it's unbelievable what these guys are making. Now, a lot of people don't understand too, and you got to see the contracts, but everybody sees $262 million. Well,
that's the guaranteed money.
Yeah, the guaranteed money is where it is in the NFL. Now, all that stuff is when you get $262 million, all that stuff is backloaded. So you're probably not ever going to see the last 2 years of that contract. They're probably going to renegotiate with you or do something. But that's why all these pro NFL guys try to get as much upfront money and as much guaranteed as they can, because that's really the only thing that they are guaranteed.
Billy, what is his guaranteed?
His guaranteed, let's see. It's a good question, George.
That's why I asked it.
It includes $218 million in guaranteed money. That's
$218 over 5 years.
Yep.
My math says that's $43,600,000 a year. Not bad work if you can get it.
Yeah, that's
not bad.
That's second, right behind Deshaun Watson, $230 million guaranteed. So
I wonder what Austin Eckler is thinking. Well, while he'll try to be the good teammate, hey man, congrats. There's
tell you what
got to be a part of him.
I'll tell you, George, what he's thinking. He's like, I should have played quarterback.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of Eckler, they got a lot of other weapons too. They drafted Quentin Johnston. The Chargers are a team to watch this year.
They are here the second week of the regular season,
and that'll be a tough win for the Titans.
Home opener for the Titans.
Yep.
Moving on. This just in, and this will surprise both of you. Frank Reich, the Third Reich. I know we've made that joke. Yes. When you get to the third quarter, it is the Third Reich.
He has named Bryce Young the starter. So this just in. Not that we didn't already know that, but he did say that after practice today. He said, "Yep, he's QB1." So that none of us expected that, but they said when we decided to pick Bryce, we imagined and saw the vision that he'd be standing here today saying he's QB1. So there wasn't much talk about that, but he's got to go out there and earn it. But apparently he's their guy. So. And they've got a 35% chance to make the playoffs according to ESPN Analytics with him. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a difference he makes as Kelly, a smaller quarterback. Kelly,
would you start him on day one?
You got to look at the situation that he's in and the people that are around him. But I got into a discussion with Tom, and I'm not going to say what Tom said about it, but I really think he's an undersized guy, but there's been undersized guys before. But I really like his demeanor. I think he's ready. I think he doesn't get fazed by too much when he played the Auburn Tigers and when he had to have that drive at the end of the game to go and win that game. I mean, that was unbelievable. He had done nothing. Yeah, he had done nothing the whole game, and he was getting
sacked
nailed
18 times.
Yeah, I mean, because they could not block the defensive line for Auburn. So it doesn't surprise me because I think mentally he's ready. You just look at it. He's been at a big school. He's been in a lot of big games, and I think he's ready.
Their backup, Andy Dalton, views himself as the starter. On the other hand, though, he said, I don't think there are 32 guys better than me.
Well, that's great math.
And that was
what the hell kind of logic is that? I like Andy Dalton, but what does that mean?
He's confident.
You got to think that. Like, if you don't think that, nobody else is going to think it. So you better be confident in yourself. But Andy, you've been around for a long time, brother. I mean, just sit back, collect the paycheck, hold the clipboard, and just watch the game.
Relax. Okay.
Relax, Francis.
There's more stuff coming out of Northwestern.
Francis.
Obviously, yesterday I mentioned that their players will not be attending Big Ten Media Days, but they're going to Northwestern is going to conduct mandatory anti-hazing seminars. Derek Gregg is leading the charge for this. Their AD.
Whoop-de-doo.
He said this entire situation.
Is he off vacation at this point?
I would guess so.
Good.
He said, my heart goes out to everyone who's involved, but I also want to stress that we have many student athletes who do the right thing and have always done the right thing, and coaches and staff as well. He said he wants to keep it that way, so they're going to have some seminars.
Here's one thing that needs to come up in all of this. The students are not victims. I mean, let me say this, whatever punishment is going to come down out of this whole thing, these football players caused this. They did.
I agree.
I mean,
I agree. It's never out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody gets some sort of hazing when they first go to college. They took it overboard with some of the things that they did, but it's just part of the deal. And I don't think it's over, George. I really don't. I think you'll start hearing more about it's obviously blown up the athletic department in Northwestern, but it wouldn't surprise me if somebody else comes out at another big time school and says the same stuff.
Yeah, because this goes on all over the place.
Absolutely.
Billy, I'll put this out here. We have learned, Plaster Sports, that Northwestern, they're not going to the Rose Bowl.
This just in.
Yes.
Yeah.
George,
I don't see it.
I mean, I know they got cupcakes on the schedule, but I mean, they might be lucky to win multiple games.
This is going to be a very tough thing for them to, over the next couple of years. this athletic department is really going to suffer. They just are.
Well, and another tough thing that happened last season, of course, was Damar Hamlin and that scary sight with his injury. He was cleared back in April, and he was a full go to work out today. The Bills released a video of him walking out for their first training camp practice, and it was a cool video. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. They put it on their Twitter. So, I mean, I can't tell you, it's probably hundreds of fans that showed up. They were cheering him on, and it was a cool sight to see that.
Let me take it one step further. I don't care what happens this calendar year. That is the sports story of the year, period.
That's a pretty good story, George. I can't believe I can't believe I try to put myself in his shoes. He's a DB. He's got to make a tackle. The last tackle that he ever made, he flatlined on the gridiron. So I don't know what's going on in his mind, man. But he's obviously got some things that he's got to go through. But I think you're right, man. That I just the night that happened, I love the game of football. It was going to be such a stain on professional football and any kind of football. And then he comes through and does what he does, and he loves the game so much he's going to keep going. That's kind of unbelievable.
Before any of this happened, a lot of you out there had never heard of Damar Hamlin. I watch enough football, I'd heard the name, but I certainly didn't know much about him. Even before this went down, this guy is a remarkable young man. I'll tell you, I'd love to meet him.
I've talked to some of my guys up there. He's a really good guy. He really is. He's one of the good guys in the National Football League. He really is.
George, I want to throw this one last note in here. We talked about the Northwestern situation. I don't know if y'all saw this on CBS Sports, but former Minnesota football players have come out and described PJ Fleck's program as a cult to front office sports, alleging the program's culture is fraught with intimidation and toxicity. I said this after the Northwestern situation. You're going to see more of this.
I'm sure you are.
And I don't want to say it's getting crazy, but the Northwestern situation was just the beginning for a lot of other colleges and former players coming out. And they also said that Fleck had minimized the seriousness of some pretty horrendous injuries. And they called the culture a toxic culture.
These are former players?
Yes, former.
Do they identify themselves?
No, I'm not seeing
because we now have a Northwestern player who has said, here's who I am. This is for the record. And it wasn't very pretty.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw that out there. I mean, we're going to be talking about.
We're going to hear it.
About stuff like this probably once a month. I mean, it probably will roll through the season too.
Truthfully, I'm surprised it was not discussed more at SEC football media days. I asked Tony Barnhart, a lot of you are going to see tomorrow the first half of that deal that we did on Sunday night. And I asked Tony Barnhart, do you think this is going to be a big issue? And he surprised me and said no. And he turned out to be right. But I think around the country, it's going to get asked a ton.
Yeah, I think most coaches at the main podium were asked about it. I mean, none of them said really much of anything, but.
I mean, what are they going to say? Yeah, we've had some hazing. Let me tell you what we've done.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully most reporters are smart enough not to ask that. But that's what I've got.
Okay. After the break, Terry McCormick, Main Street Media, our Titans man extraordinaire. How about that? Big word. He's going to join us. We're going to talk training camp, which has begun, get his opinions on a variety of things. You need to stick around because all of a sudden, with DeAndre Hopkins on board, this is a little more interesting than it felt in June. Please stay with us.
30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Scholar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. As a lot of you know, our show is now more than a year old, and that's a great testimony to some of the viewership that we have had from you all. So a big thank you right there. If you're new to all of this and you're wondering, how do we see the show? Here's some of the ways. Of course, you can watch it live 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the 3 biggest ways are Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, if you're working or can't watch the show live, you know what? All this stuff is archived in podcast form through 2 different ways. Apple, Spotify, that's the way you do it. You can go Apple Podcast or Spotify, and you're probably sitting there saying, George, you don't know what any of these mean. Well, I'm learning. I can at least spit it out now. Hope that you will continue to enjoy our show, because as football season revs up, we've got some great things planned. Thanks for being with us.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
So who said I can't be a golfer? Well, you know what? This is X Golf, located just down the road from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. This is fun. It'll improve your golf game, and you need to stop in and check it out. 8138 Sawyer Brown Road, and who knows, I may get to 200 before it's all over. Okay, we're back. I never thought I would ever say this to Terry. Terry McCormick, about to join us from Main Street Media. He and I have had some fun, most of it me being kind of a jerk and aiming a lot of Yankee hatred at Terry. Terry, your team sucks.
They're awful, George.
They are awful. It's shocking.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, George. The farm system has not produced anything other than Aaron Judge in the last 7 years that's worthy of saying that this guy is a really top-notch player. You just can't run out Willie Calhoun and Billy McKinney and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Those guys, they're not Yankees. They're Royals or they're Rockies. They're not the guys that the Yankees usually have in the lineup. It's sad.
Do you think Aaron Boone is maybe days away from getting fired?
Well, if he is, he would be a scapegoat, George, because this is Brian Cashman's mess. He and Hal Steinbrenner. To me, Boone can only play with the cards he's dealt, and he's not been dealt a very good hand. Now, in criticism of Boone, I will say this. When you keep running guys like Josh Donaldson, who's hitting 140 out there, you get, what do you expect? Of course, you're going to lose. You're not going to get production out of him, but what other options does he have, really?
Okay, let's go to an announcement that will surprise nobody. We are bringing Terry McCormick's Daily Titans Update back. Terry, your work in the reporting world is terrific. People enjoy on a daily basis hearing what it is you have to offer. When do we want to start this? I haven't asked you this, but when do you want to start it?
Let's just go with, whatever you want to talk about, George. The first day of camp was today. So,
okay, let's do this. We'll start it on Monday.
Okay, sounds
fair
good.
enough.
Sounds good.
Okay, on to the business at hand. Give us some thoughts on the Kevin Byard extension. Is this living proof that he and Rand Carthon are now okay with each other, or is this just simply this had to happen, but don't kid yourself, there's hard feelings?
No, I think they've moved past it. I think that was evident with Byard being able to rework his contract, and from the sounds of it, from what some of the people have been putting out there, it sounds like that if he's on the roster next year, that he won't really lose any money, that they just kind of move some things around, push some stuff back. Obviously if he got cut at the end of this year, he would stand to lose the $3 million or so that he gave back in order to create some cap space for DeAndre Hopkins. But Byard said that he's really a guy that, his goal is to try and win a championship here. And he knew that in order to do that, they were going to have to make room for a guy like Hopkins to try and come in and help.
Terry, your assessment of Will Levis early on, I would describe as kind of lukewarm, okay, but not knocking it out of the park. So did that factor into what the Titans offered, or is it simply a slotted anybody, whether their name is Will Levis or Billy Derrick, would get X amount?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think, pretty much slotted. Quarterback contracts are a little bit different than, say, the contract for a guard or a linebacker. But in general, it's pretty well slotted as to what these guys are going to be able to make in their rookie contract. Been that way for several years now. So really just a formality, probably the way it's structured and the language of it. Some certain things had to be done before it got finalized, but run of the mill for the most part.
Terry, obviously, when none of us know the offensive line stuff that we probably do about wide receivers and quarterbacks and running backs. So the signing of DeAndre Hopkins has really energized a fan base that really, I don't think had a lot of reason to be all that excited. But now with him, there's a lot of little subplots. Does it help Treylon Burks get better because he doesn't have the pressure of being the number one? On the flip side, there are people saying, well, he's just going to be Julio Jones Jr. We're never going to see him because his age is, against him. Tell me what you think the Titans get out of DeAndre Hopkins.
Well, I think they're going to get a guy that probably will end up being more productive than Julio Jones was, for simply the fact that, he's seemingly in pretty good shape. I think he has something to prove after missing some time the last couple of years. He looked good out there today. Now, granted, it's not with the pads on. It's not with, the defense boring down on the quarterback and the defensive backs getting hits in and things like that. But he looked pretty good out there today. I think that as he builds chemistry with Ryan Tannehill, I think he should be able to get better. I think, and it's interesting you say that, George, because I have a story coming out in the Nashville Ledger about it. And I talked to former Titans receiver Derek Mason and some other people about it. And they said that one of the things that Hopkins has going for him that can lengthen his career, maybe that a guy like Julio Jones couldn't, is that Hopkins was never really a speed guy. He was always a route runner and a hands catcher, some of the best hands in the game. And those types of skills last longer than guys who run a 4.3 and just, hustle by you and are gone for a big play. So once a 4-3 guy becomes a 4-5 guy, then a lot of that skill set is gone. But if you never were a 4-3 guy, then you can play and last for much longer. I mean, think about how long Jerry Rice played because he was a good route runner and had great hands. Think about Larry Fitzgerald, how long in his career he played with that same skill set.
So I realize in late July, you can look stupid with answers that you give because you haven't seen anything. But do you think Hopkins signing has them now dead even with Jacksonville? Where do you think they are in that race?
That's a good question. I wouldn't put them dead even with Jacksonville right now, George, and here's why. They still have a lot of questions on the offensive line. They still have some questions in terms of depth and who's going to play inside linebacker, who's going to back up at safety, how are the cornerbacks going to shake out. There's a lot of positives, and Hopkins certainly is another one. But there's still a lot of questions, and I got to see that offensive line in action before I'm sold on them.
Why did George Fant leave here without a contract? Best as you can tell.
It's a good question. I think unless, he either wanted more than they were willing to pay. I think one of the things, too, is that, Jamarco Jones is back. He's healthy. I think they're going to give him the first shot at playing this right tackle position, at least in the interim while Nicholas Petit-Ferrer is out. The other thing, too, is if you sign George Fant and he makes your roster, you're guaranteeing his salary for the entire season. Whereas if you sign a guy in week 2 who's a vested veteran, you're paying him week to week. If you decide in week 10 that he's not getting the job done, you can send him on his way and not be on the hook for any money.
So do you think that's what they left Fant with? Chill out until week 2, or do you think there's another offensive line candidate out there that maybe we're not hearing about?
Well, they'll continue to sift through the waiver wire. They did also work out a guy named Chris Hubbard, who's a free agent at the same time that they worked out George Fant last weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. I think they probably want to stand pat if they can. And then if they look and they go, Jamarco Jones is not the answer, Jalen Duncan's not the answer, then they may go circle back to George Fant and say, all right, it's your turn.
Okay, so kind of tell us, on one hand, everybody has an enthusiasm. Everybody's undefeated. What was today like?
Well, I think it was just a matter of just kind of getting back to work. I mean, they just were out there in the shorts, running the offense, running the defense, and just kind of going through everything that you go through as a typical training camp practice. I think the guys who were here last year, I think, are eager to try and put last year behind them because it ended terribly with that 7-game losing streak. I think those guys are determined to reestablish the winning culture that had been around this organization over the last 5 or 6 years. And I think they're on a mission to try and do that. The younger guys that are meshing in, I think they're still trying to feel their way around to see exactly how they fit and where they fit.
Rand Carthon talked to you guys earlier this morning. What was the most interesting stuff or maybe the most surprising stuff that you took out of that?
Well, Rand discussed a lot of things about how things were going. He discussed, a little bit of the DeAndre Hopkins process. But one of the areas that they're really delving into with the organization, they've been adding a lot of people in different departments, adding to the coaching staff, adding to the scouting department, doing a lot of different things that never happened under Bud Adams' regime. And so now it seems like they've really gotten into the analytics side of football. They've established an analytics department with a woman named Sarah Bailey heading that up. Chad Brinker, who's one of the assistant GMs, also has a background in analytics from his time in Green Bay. And so I think that's really an avenue that we've not seen the Titans pursue very deeply in the past that they're trying to open up to be more involved in. Now, Mike Vrabel will tell you about analytics, and he'll say analytics has been around as long as football. It's called watching film. It's just more technologically advanced. And that probably is the case. But it's interesting now that analytics has evolved to the point that there's an entire wing of the Titans front office that's now dedicated to analytics.
So let me bring Kelly into the picture on this. This is a really interesting piece of conversation before we go to the break. Kelly, I have heard some coaches who are really into analytics who are like, this can really help us. Darn right, I'm paying attention. But there's another group of coaches who will privately say, look, they're full of crap. They sit in a room and they're never around the press conference afterwards when I'm getting asked, why did you do this stupid thing that your analytics people told you to do? So kind of share with people what this means in the football world.
Man, it's growing bigger, as Terry just talked about. I mean, they've got a whole wing now, and my question is to Terry, but I'll ask it in a second. But I know that there's a high school coach down. It was I think it was Pulaski Academy in Arkansas, and he is totally analytical when it comes to stuff like that. And he would not. I mean, he's going for it on fourth down a lot. And I know that there's been college teams that met with him, and I think some pro teams. I don't know, but it just seems like, with baseball, analytics is huge. Now you've got football with analytics is coming on. I know that Bill Belichick up in New England had one. And my question to Terry is, how does that analytics stuff work? Is there a guy that's got a headset, and is he in constant communication with the head coach? If we got a fourth down at this situation in the game, situationally on the field, how does that work? Will he ask them? Will he turn them on? Are they always with him? How does that work, or do you know?
I really don't know. I'm not sure that they go that detailed that they would allow a guy on 4th and 2 to say, hey, 76% of the time this team is passing the ball on 4th and 2. I think that's stuff that goes more into the during the week game plan, where they start to look at tendencies of teams to say, okay, on 3rd down and 5 or more, this team has a tendency to pass, or when they pass, they have a tendency to pass to the right side of the field, 38% more of the time than they do to the left side of the field. And I guess those sorts of things. I think it's more preparation and then post-game analysis to see what can be done better, rather than it is, I think, in the fray during the game where it's, 3rd down and 6 and you've got to call a play with 2 minutes left.
I want all of you to think of this as we go to the break, and then we'll kind of let Kelly delve a little bit more into this. But I want you to have the mental image of Mike Ditka in Chicago with the analytics people. Imagine the meeting in the room as Ditka hears what the analytics people are telling him needs to be done. I'd like to be a fly on the wall for that. Now, let's go to the bottom of the screen and talk a little Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. It's basically 9 days away. Wow. And I'll tell you, their staff is ready. I was over there yesterday. They're excited, and they should be. First of all, musically, they have put together the best lineup you'll ever find, period. I laughed. I said, where's Peter Frampton? And somebody said, well, we're thinking about it. Wow. Because they've got it all. I mean, there's nothing they don't have in the music world for those 3 days. The racing speaks for itself. The track and how they've put it together, meshing it around the football stadium in the city. I can't wait to see it. I've never been to one. I'll admit I'm really excited. If you have not bought tickets yet, but you're intrigued, here's what you need to do. Go to musiccitygp.com. Tickets start, as Billy mentioned yesterday, as low as $41 for general admission, and then they'll work up in tiers all the way up to the highest level of amenities. Go to musiccitygp.com. After the break, we'll talk more Titans football. Kelly Holcomb is in his own studio, and Terry McCormick is at a car near you, and he's not happy about his Yankees.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at bairdifference.com.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? How?
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
So we are excited with the announcement that Terry McCormick, Main Street Media, his daily Titans update will continue this year. It's been a very popular feature of the show. We start the show with Terry's daily Titans update, and his information has always been terrific. We do probably, I would say, 3 to 5 minutes, unless I'm ragging about the Yankees, and then we can extend it a tad bit. Kelly, you were listening to the conversation in all seriousness about analytics, and I know you've got some stuff that you want to go with on all of this, so take it and go with it.
Well, just a comment to start off with. Analytics is here to stay. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of it. I know that Terry knows this, and we just talked about it with them having another wing. But You know, that's where things are going right now. And I brought that coach up in Arkansas. I mean, he talks about from the 20 to the 20 inside there, you should never punt the ball. You should always go for it on fourth down. I don't know if you can do that stuff in the National Football League. I really don't. I don't think you can. I mean, you're going to lose some games. You're going to get all those questions. So analytics is here to stay. It's something big. But where I want to start off with, Terry, is, and this is kind of a silly question. And I don't know, we can bring George back up for this, but this is a really silly question. But I want to know how much DeAndre Hopkins had to pay for his jersey, getting it from another guy, getting it from the Jackson kid, because that happens. I can remember when Kellen Winslow Jr. came to Cleveland, and he paid quite a bit of money for his number to another guy. So did DeAndre Hopkins have to pay, or do you even know?
I don't know, but yeah, you're right. A lot of times guys have to pay. Now, if I'm Kearis Jackson, being an undrafted rookie from Georgia, I'm willingly giving it up and then hoping that DeAndre Hopkins rewards me somehow or other. But I'm not going to rock the boat and, get a strike against me from the leading receiver and the most accomplished receiver in the room by not giving him the jersey he wore. Kearis Jackson came out there today in number 5, and I'm sure he was happy to have that jersey on. He could have been in 105, and he's probably happy just to have a jersey number.
Kelly, Kelly, let's break in on this one. If you go out to training camp and you see a player with 3 digits, 106, not a good sign. If they give you negative 42, that's not a good sign.
It's not a good deal.
No.
Another bad sign, Kelly, and you'll agree with me here. If you're sharing a number in the NFL, they do in college all the time, but you see 2 number 40s out there running around or 2 number 72s out there running around, that's never a good sign for your chances to make the roster.
Yeah, that's not going to work, man. I'm sorry for the one dude that's wearing, and you probably got a veteran that's in that shirt, and then you're wearing the other. Yeah, you're not going to make it, man. I'm sorry. I hate to tell you that, but it's funny because that stuff goes on, George. Like if you got, and it's too bad that Kearis is a rookie, but if he had a little bit more leverage, just like in contracts, if he had a little bit more leverage, he could have made some money off that. If DeAndre Hopkins wanted that jersey, man, I've seen that stuff get kind of steep. So that's funny that he probably did give it up because he's a rookie and he's trying to make his way. But I just wanted to know if he had to pay anything there. So that's because that stuff does go on, George.
Oh, absolutely. I know it does.
Okay, so my next question to you, Terry, is this: with the right tackle, with the Petit Frere kid, with him out, like. I've never been around that. I've never been around a guy that's suspended for the first 6 games. And I've been around some guys that got suspended during the year. But how are they going to work that? Do you even know how they're going to do that? Like, he'll get to play in the preseason, obviously, but he won't get to play during the first 6 games. So how – I mean, because they got to get somebody ready to go for the first of the season, but – he's obviously going to come back at some point if he doesn't get hurt in the preseason. So how are they working that in with reps and stuff like that?
Well, he was out there with the 3rd team today, out there with the guys that are the long shots to make the roster because they know he's not going to be available. But yet, while he is here, they've got to get him some work and get him some time on the field to try to get him ready as best they can. Now, as I understand it, the way the PED and drug suspensions work, and I assume the gambling suspensions work the same way, he won't even be allowed to be in the facility during that time frame, during that period of time where he is suspended. He'll have to sit at home on the couch and be away and train on his own, and he can't walk back in the building until the suspension is finished if it works the same way as the drug suspensions do.
I had no clue about that. I did not know. He can't even come into the building.
I think that's right.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That puts a guy behind. So, yeah, I can understand. What's that?
Is that not a little silly?
It kind of is, but I didn't realize that they had done that. I figured that he could come in and he could work out and he would still be at practice. But wow, that's he's going to be far behind.
That, but I think that's right because technically he's not on the roster. So because he'll go on the suspended list.
That's a tough situation right there. I did not know that was the case because I figured he would be and obviously he is going to practice. But man, that's substantial right there for an offensive lineman or for anybody on a team who can't go into the facility. So that's crazy. Who in your mind with the Titans has a breakout year this year, Terry?
Well, I think they're hoping it'll be Treylon Burks, and I think that Burks is a guy that came into camp, had a good offseason, came into camp in better shape. Now he's got DeAndre Hopkins to help take some of the pressure off of him. I think he's probably number one on that list. Other guys that maybe could have a breakout year, I think they're hopeful that, some of these other guys that they brought in, like Arden Key, I think they're counting on him a lot. I think he's a guy that brings some energy to that defense. And then at the inside linebacker position, look out for a guy named Jack Gibbons. He was in the camp last year, started the year on the practice squad. They had all the injuries. And by the time the season ended last year, he was the green dot guy on defense, a really smart guy who's worked to get his body sculpted and in better shape. And Vrabel really likes this kid because he's really smart, knows where to be. And when you're that way, even if you're not the most athletically gifted, the coaches always take a liking to those guys who know what to do.
Well, I saw where they just signed another safety. Is that just for depth purposes, the AJ Moore kid?
Yeah, that's for depth and also for special teams. He was with them last year, and then he tore his Achilles, I think, in the first game of the year, and then was on injured reserve, and then they didn't bother re-signing him, but they brought him back in for a workout and then added him to the roster just this morning.
Yeah, just looking at things today, looking at my position, how did the quarterbacks perform today? It looked like they performed really well, and it looked like Malik Willis played. He practiced really well. It's really funny to look at this because now everybody talks about, man, he was 5 of 7 or he was 6 of 8. I didn't realize you guys did that back in the day. They just, when they came on TV, when I was playing, it would just say, well, he was crisp today, had a good practice, but it looked like the quarterbacks played really well today in their first practice.
Yeah, I think so. For the most part, Tannehill looked pretty sharp. He connected with Hopkins on a couple of balls, so that's what you want to see if you're a Titans fan, to see those two get on the same page pretty early. Willis had a pretty good day overall. He was 4-4 and 7 on 7. He did have a couple of rough plays in the team drills. One ball got batted away by Chance Campbell. It was a blitz and a hot read, and he was trying to throw it out into the flat, and Campbell just jumped up with both hands and spiked it like a volleyball. And then the other one was a pass that he just kind of threw. I don't know if he was throwing it away because the guy was not quite open or what it was, didn't like the read, but he threw it completely out of bounds and a very uncatchable ball. So that may have been by design, may have been just one that got away. Will Levis looked pretty good. Chigga Conquo made a really nice catch on one ball for him. Probably the play of the day. The pass was a little low. He went down to get it, got a hand on it, tipped it up, and then corralled it back in as he tipped it to himself.
Well, I don't want to. I guess I am going to ask you to make a prediction, but I was reading something the other day that was talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, and somebody rated them in the top 10 of the league, and I'm like, wow, just after the 1 year. So with DeAndre Hopkins getting signed, I know y'all discussed it a little bit earlier, but where do you think that puts them? Like there's a lot of things going on in the AFC South. We've got Trevor Lawrence, and then we got Ryan Tannehill, but you got 2 young quarterbacks, and we don't, that's kind of an unknown, so we really don't know. But it looks like this division is going to be competitive for years to come. I don't know about this year, but what's your thoughts on where the Titans are going to end up in this division?
Well, I think they've got a shot to win it, but I still think Jacksonville is the favorite right now just because of what they accomplished last year. I think if you're a Titans fan, what you look at is this. You came within 3 minutes of beating the Jaguars and taking the division away from them down there, and lost on what was a controversial call regarding that Josh Dobbs fumble or incompletion. And with all the injuries that you had, with all the plugging holes here, filling in spots there, they were within 3 minutes of winning the division. Now you've added DeAndre Hopkins, you've added a couple of pieces on defense, and so you're going to have a revamped offensive line. If that offensive line comes through, I think this Titans team can be pretty good. And here's the thing, too. I'll throw this back at you, Kelly, because you're a quarterback. What happens with the Titans, knowing that they're wanting to hand it off to Will Levis next year? What happens to this team if Ryan Tannehill throws for 3,500 yards and 27 touchdowns and takes this team back to the postseason?
Oh, no, that's a good question because I think of the time that Drew Brees was in San Diego, and it wasn't the LA Chargers, it was San Diego Chargers, and they draft Phillip Rivers. And Drew Brees did not play well his first couple of years, and then he just hung in there, and then he started playing really good. And they finally had to just trade him to the New Orleans Saints because they wanted Phillip Rivers to be their quarterback. So I guess that's a good problem to have if you're a coach. You got a quarterback because nobody cares. I don't think anybody cares. And when you got teammates in the room, I don't think anybody cares who's playing. They just want to know that the guy that's playing gives them an opportunity to win. And obviously, right now it's Ryan Tannehill. And if he plays really well, I don't know. I don't think you can just hand it off to somebody if another guy's playing well until he starts deteriorating with his skills. And if he comes back and he has a really good year, I mean, this thing could keep going. So you never know what's going to happen in the future. And I think, like you said, they drafted him for a reason. But, if the Malik Willis kid comes on, I mean, they drafted him too, just a round behind where Will Levis was drafted. So I don't think anybody cares. Like I said, they want to know who's on the field, gives them the best chance to win. If Ryan Tannehill's doing it, I don't see any change, Terry. I really don't.
I think it could end up with a franchise tag or something like that if they don't want to commit to him long term, but he has a good year.
George, are you going to ask Terry about the running back situation? I figured you would.
Oh,
with
no.
the Saquon Barkley? No, you're not going to ask him? Okay, my bad.
No, y'all are sick of hearing it. This area is called the C word, collusion. Time that the running backs start saying that word publicly. Collusion.
Collusion.
Yeah, because whether
it's in touch with Tim Raines and some of the guys that couldn't get a contract.
Andre Dawson.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, my point is they have no recourse because they've been pathetic negotiators. So why not toss out that, kind of feels like collusion a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how the league has evolved, though, and
there you go.
Yeah,
I think
the league has evolved.
Did Terry freeze?
We're losing Terry.
Yeah.
You froze him with that question.
I guess I did. Okay.
Evolved.
We'll end on that. Yes, Kelly, I saw the little hand gestures there. We'll say thank you to Terry. Look forward to him rejoining us on Monday for Terry McCormick's Daily Titans Update, which will run at 2:00 the minute we get on the air. Stat of the day, and then Michael Bratton, the author of That SEC Podcast. All of that coming up next. Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports. And then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general. Baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised. And, of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Welcome back into the George Plaster Show. Top of the hour, we're getting set for Michael Bratton, SEC Mike, talking a little SEC football here with fall camp beginning here in Nashville and across the country. But first, stat of the day, brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards in Shelbyville, Tennessee. You can find them at 204 East Depot Street. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and also Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call at 931-492-4304. All right, we're keeping the college football theme going, and if you guys get into some trouble here, might want to call on.
No, we'll just turn to him. Let him.
On Michael Bratton here. I'm not sure if it's an SEC answer or not, but we are 30 days away from week 0 of college football. Here we go. Who holds the record for most total yards in their career?
Most total yards. Kelly, I'll give you a name, and I don't know that it's right, but I bet he's close. Aaron Murray.
I don't know, George. I'm not sure, but I was thinking one of my former teammates, Ty Detmer, but he got beat by somebody.
Whoa! Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I was going SEC only. I didn't read the question well. The record for most total yards in their career.
It's not It's not a former SEC quarterback.
Okay, so that eliminates. I know Aaron appreciates getting mentioned, but not so fast.
Did
you say Ty Detmer?
I did, because he held the record for a few years, but he got overtaken by somebody.
Robbie Bosco. Let's keep going with crazy names out of the BYU factory.
A little Jim McMahon action.
Yeah.
Steve Young action. No, it was.
You want to put SEC Mike on the spot? Let's bring him up.
Was it Graham Harrell or?
You know, I think you're on to something with the Texas Tech stuff. Michael, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me. And
thank you.
I got
you
no
got
idea.
a guess?
No idea.
Let's go Graham Harrell. I like that one. I think it's a pretty good answer.
All right, Graham Harrell.
Out of that old Texas Tech,
air raid.
Throw 86 times and run 4.
All right, here we go. Here's the answer. Former Big 12 quarterback, Case Keenum.
Case Keenum, gosh, I said Case Keenum. Good one.
Where'd you find that one?
I don't know. Butch got it for me, so.
Really?
Yeah.
I said that rolled through my mind, Case Keenum, and then I was like, I thought it was Graham Harrell that beat Ty Detmer's deal.
I like your answer. Any of those Texas Tech guys have got to be up there close. But anyway, we're now officially into the 3:00 hour, and we're about to meet with Michael Bratton. There he is on the right. He has a terrific podcast, That SEC Podcast, known on Twitter as SEC Mike. Michael, how'd you get into all this?
Well, how much time you got? No. I mean,
you got an hour. Go.
Yeah. Man, that's a long story. But basically, I was living in Los Angeles. I was working in TV and film, and I graduated from Tennessee before I moved out there. And even though I was doing well out there, I had jobs, and which that's a tough industry to get jobs and getting paid and everything and pay the bills. But I managed to do it. But I'll tell you, every Saturday when I missed a Tennessee-Florida game or an Alabama-LSU game, I was sick. So I decided that I was in the wrong business. And somehow, some way, I don't even know how I managed to do it, but I got myself a job at Fox Sports, the national website, and that was several years ago. And long story short, now I'm here.
Well, and thank you for being with us. So I'm going to hit you with kind of a loaded bomb at the beginning. We all know that this hazing stuff that Northwestern is getting nailed on right now, they're not the only one around the country that has some level of hazing. Are you surprised that last week at SEC Media Days that it was not made a bigger issue than it was?
No, because honestly, I mean, stuff like that, I don't think fans really care about. And now, if it happens to them, certainly they would care. But no, I mean, stuff like that at the end of I mean, I don't even think Georgia fans care that, people are dying and they're getting people arrested and on because they're winning. And that's, hey, that may be sad, but I think that's the truth. So, no, I mean, to me, that's something I didn't even consider.
Interesting. Okay, let me try this one. A year from now, when Texas and OU come in, I personally think there's going to be some culture shock where some 10-2 programs are going to be forced as fan bases to say, 8-4 is not all bad given who we play. Do you think fans are ready for that?
No. And I could tell you, I don't know a ton about Texas and Oklahoma. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I'm vowing to watch all their games this fall just to get an idea of the personnel and the coaching staff. But just what little I do know, the interactions I've had with the media that cover those programs and the fan bases already, no, they're on cloud nine. And hey, I'm an optimistic guy, so hey, more power to them. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it potentially could be a shock to the system, so to speak. It seems like every 2 or 3 years we're pumping up Texas. They've never deserved it, I don't think. I mean, even last year, their best win was almost beating Alabama. I mean, it's kind of pathetic where they're at, yet they're eyeing the college football playoff for some reason. Oklahoma, certainly, I don't know if Brent Venables is even going to make it to coach in the SEC. Again, I don't follow that program too well, but I know they lost a lot of games. They're not used to losing that many in Norman, Oklahoma, but I could be dead wrong too. I mean, I thought Missouri was going to be awful when they got into the SEC. What'd they do? They turned around and won 2 East Division titles. Now, the East was down. That's fair to say, but Missouri excelled at that point in time. Texas A&M came right out the gate, red hot. They've actually not been quite as good since that time, but it could go either way. I mean, honestly, I think it really could go either way, and I'm not ready to say Texas and Oklahoma are going to get humbled, but it would not surprise me.
Okay, I saw the A&M towel in the background to your right. So let's talk about them, because if Jimbo doesn't find a quarterback and they go through a lot of the same stuff they went through a year ago, everybody's going to call for his head. But the fact of it is, A&M owes him the national debt if they decide they're going to get rid of him. Can they really monetarily pull that trigger?
Well, maybe ask me that late in the season. We'll check the price of oil, whether they can actually do it or not. But as crazy as it is to say, I think they can, particularly if Texas is red hot and they win the Big 12. They're coming into the SEC with a ton of momentum, and A&M has another down season. They will fire Jimbo. I don't care what the buyout is. I think they should already fire Jimbo. Now, I also think A&M could be in for a big bounce back year, but that's got more to do with the talent and the coaching staff aside from Jimbo. I mean, it's truly pathetic that we're sitting here saying we have to win in spite of our head coach. But I think that's where we're at right now in College Station. They've got the resources, they got the roster, they have an elite offensive coordinator. I wouldn't go and say DJ Durkin's an elite defensive coordinator, but he's certainly a quality defensive coordinator. If they do not win 8-9 games, that's on Jimbo. He's got to go.
If you had to give me a list of 3, if this thing goes south, are there 2 or 3 obvious names you'd put out there
for the A&M job?
Yeah.
I mean, I would call Josh Heupel. I don't know that they could get him, but yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I've not gone that far down the road, but you just look at some of the hottest candidates. I mean, they can pay whatever they got to pay. You hear the Urban Meyer rumors. I've already heard that, but he's attached to just about every job opening. I wouldn't touch Urban Meyer with the 10-foot pole, but maybe they'll be that desperate. I would love to see Lane Kiffin down there. That would never happen. They hate Kiffin down there, but I think he's certainly a lot better coach than Jimbo. I think he would maximize that talent. I think they need an offensive-minded guy, someone to make football fun down there, because Jimbo certainly is not doing that.
Let me get one thought from you on Georgia. On one hand, what they're trying to do in the three-peat world is pretty amazing, and you say, okay, let's sort of factor what the things are. You got a quarterback who really has not played any meaningful football, and that's a strike against them repeating. But then you look at their schedule, and until they go to Tennessee in mid-November, it's pretty doable. Give me your thoughts.
Well, yeah, but I would also slice it the other way. If they do not win the East, which I understand they're heavy favorites to do it, if they don't win the East, let's say they go 11-1 and lose to Tennessee or lose to Kentucky, or whoever it is, if they do not win the East, they're not going to the playoff, and they're probably the second best or first best team in the country. They do not have the resume to get to the college football playoff if they do not win the SEC championship, and obviously they can't do that unless they win the East. So I think there's pressure on them to win that division. And again, they're heavy favorites. They should win it. I'm not sitting here predicting that they won't, but I think that schedule could come back to haunt them. And I kind of look to Ohio State the year they won the national championship. They brought everyone back. They lost one game, final kick, I believe it was to Michigan State. That kept them out of the playoff. I think it'll do the same to Georgia. So, yeah, the schedule looks light, but it really could be the thing that gets in their way of winning that third national championship.
Kelly, say hello to Michael Bratton.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Hey, last week with the SEC Media Days, was there a coach that impressed you with all the interviews that they had? Was there one guy other than maybe a Nick Saban that you really enjoyed listening to and you thought, man, what he's saying is pretty good?
Well, I'm a little bit of a homer for this guy, so he came over to our booth, but I love Sam Pittman, and I like the vibes coming out of Fayetteville. I'm hearing good things behind the scenes. KJ Jefferson, I think, is the best quarterback in the SEC. I think I'm underrating Arkansas. I've got them 5th in the West. I think conceivably they could do a lot better there. 2 new coordinators for Sam Pittman, but I would certainly say Sam Pittman seems at ease, seems relaxed, and they got that chip on their shoulder. Coach speak, of course, but you don't get a ton of great revealing comments from media days these days, unfortunately.
No, you do not. And let's kind of expand on that. Why does, like, Arkansas, it seems like the past 2 or 3 years, they've started out really well, and then towards the middle and towards the end, they just kind of go on a downhill slope. Why is that?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with that A&M game. And I heard it described perfectly. It's a 50-50 game that A&M wins 90% of the time. It's kind of like the Tennessee-Florida game. You know what I mean? So that really seems to be a one where momentum is gained or lost for the Razorbacks. Obviously, Alabama stomped them for about 20 years in a row. Of course, Alabama's done that to a lot of people, so not calling Arkansas out. But I think that A&M game's got something to do with it. But really, last year, it was losing one-score games they won those games 2 years ago when they won 9 games. They
Right.
had a losing record in one-score games last year, and some of that was line of scrimmage, which is not something I'd ever thought I would say under Sam Pittman, but I think they just kind of got away a little bit from that Sam Pittman DNA, what they want to be in that line of scrimmage. If they can bring that back with offensive coordinator Dan Enos, I think this could be a nice bounce back for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, and I like what you said about KJ Jefferson. I think people kind of forget about what kind of player he is being at Arkansas, but he's a really good quarterback, a big guy, can throw it, can run it, and he seems like he's a leader for that team.
Yeah, and people think he's just a runner. He had better yards per attempt and completion percentage than Bryce Young last year. So I'm not sitting here saying he's better than Bryce Young.
Yeah.
I mean, Bryce Young, #1 overall pick, and he deserved it. He was a unique talent, but KJ can throw the ball too. So I'm very, very high on what he can do, and I won't go out there and say Heisman, because I think the Heisman nowadays, they basically just give the award to the best player on the best team, and I certainly don't think Arkansas is that. But if they gave it to the most valuable or the most deserving player, I think I would throw KJ Jefferson into the early conversation.
Yeah, he's a good player. So last year, Alabama loses to Tennessee. They go down to Baton Rouge. They lose to LSU. Is there, like, the SEC West? Who do you think is going to win the SEC West? The last year of divisions, obviously, but has LSU, can they do it again this year? They got to go to Tuscaloosa. And I'm sure it's going to be a revenge game. And I know that Nick Saban's going to be talking about that. But can LSU, can they do it again in Tuscaloosa?
Well, last year was the revenge season for Bama, and how'd that go? I mean, they didn't even win their dang division. So, yeah, I'm out on Bama and Nick Saban. He's the greatest of all time. All due respect to him, but I call it the decaying dynasty up there in Tuscaloosa. So, no, I think LSU wins the West again. I've got LSU winning the national championship. I've actually got Alabama third in the West behind LSU and Texas A&M. I think that game late in the year, Texas A&M at LSU, I think that decides the West. Alabama, just for whatever reason, the coaching there's been a big drop-off. And this is not me saying it. This is people that are paid to make coaching hires or assist in coaching hires across the country. Shout out to Dave Bartu, Matrix Analytical. Worst staff Nick Saban has ever assembled. He doesn't have a single coordinator or assistant at position coach that's rated as a top 2 in the entire SEC. Only Vanderbilt, Alabama and Vanderbilt are the only 2 teams in the SEC that can say that. They do not have an assistant coach rated as a top 2 at their position. So, no, I think Alabama continues to decline. They probably lose to LSU at home. I'm not ready to say Tennessee can't beat them again. I'm not crazy enough to say that, but I think at A&M, for whatever reason, Jimbo Fisher, well, I think we know why, but Jimbo Fisher gets up for that Alabama game. At Kentucky, I think is a tricky game for Alabama, believe it or not, late in the season in Lexington. Texas, again, another home game, but that's a tricky game right out the gate. And believe it or not a big fan of this guy personally, but he does a good job on the field. I think Hugh Freeze potentially could have some serious momentum on the Plains. If you look at their schedule, last 4 or 5 games, all winnable leading up to that Iron Bowl. So they may be on a 4-game winning streak going into the Iron Bowl, and I think there's a chance even they win it there.
Yeah, that's some big stuff, man. That's some good info. So, talking about Alabama, they've kind of been on a run of these great quarterbacks. They've had Tua, they've had Mac Jones, Bryce Young, even before that. And it seems like right now, who's going to start for them? I mean, the Milroe kid came in last year, but he's got to polish his passing ability up. We know the guy can run. They got the kid from Martin, Tennessee up here that I think they thought that was going to be pretty good. And he didn't have a very good spring game. And now they've got the kid from Notre Dame. So are you hearing anything about who's going to start for those guys?
Honestly, I have no idea. And I don't think they have an idea either, because, I mean, everybody I talk to, no one seems to know. So, but I will say, I don't like to sit here and disparage players or anything, but I watched the guy they got from Notre Dame. You mentioned him, Buckner. The fact that they're bringing him after spring, that's pretty alarming to me. And I think if he's their starting quarterback, they're in more dire straits than I thought. I think Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson have immense potential, but again, it's just potential. And like I said, they got Texas week 2. It is at home, but you have to feel like with the talent they have assembled there in Austin, I mean, they're going to have to outscore them. And we're talking maybe, 35, 40 points. And can Alabama do that without knowing their quarterback? And I think more importantly, everybody looks at Alabama and they just say, well, they're going to get back to bully ball. Well, they haven't had bully ball in several years. They're signing 5 stars and 4 stars on the offensive line. They're not developing in them. That doesn't mean they're awful or anything like that, but they're just not the caliber that we have seen under Nick Saban. And I think it's misguided to just sit here and say, well, he's Nick Saban, so they'll get it done. The offensive line they'll play bully ball now when they've not been able to do that for several years in a row. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think you made a good point right there. Last question. How big of a job has Zach Arnett got at Mississippi State with the tragic loss of Mike Leach and with the air raid stuff that he brought in there? He's trying, he as a defensive coordinator, I know because I've coached. So those guys don't like when you go out on the field and you lose 13 seconds, when you throw 3 incompletions and there's 13 seconds come off the clock. So just how tough of a job has he got at Mississippi State?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think anybody that takes that job's got it tough. Regardless of the situations, just with the resources and everything there. But, so far so good, I think. They only lost 1 recruit after the tragic passing of Mike Leach. They signed a top 25 recruiting class, which is never a given at Mississippi State. They've done well in the portal. And the coaching staff he has assembled, it's an interesting unit, but I think it's 50-plus years of SEC experience he has brought on his coaching staff since getting the full-time job. And, I think obviously Mississippi State, they get disrespected. There's a lack of coverage and everything there, but, it's been the defense that's been carrying them the last couple of years, particularly last year. And I'm not trying to disrespect Mike Leach because, I honor him on the set here. We got his book front and center. He's one of my favorites of all times. But again, the offense was largely inconsistent. And to your point, how often they threw the ball, I mean, they left the defense out to dry more often than not. Now we're getting back to a balanced attack. They were severely lacking in explosive passing plays. They threw the ball over the yard, but it's a lot of short stuff. The offensive coordinator they brought in, Kevin Barbay from Appalachian State, last couple of years, top 20 in the country in explosive pass rate. So I expect Mississippi State to push the ball down the field. I think they're going to run it a lot more. They haven't had a tight end on their roster since 2016. They've had to bring in tight ends just to run this system. I'm a little concerned just how big the transition will be because they bring back a ton of experience, but how valuable is that really when you're changing so much? That is a question to look this fall in Starkville. But if they can get more explosive, if they can get more balanced, if they can lean on that defense led by Zach Arnett, Mississippi State, again, they won 9 games last year. They're not a bad program. They may be the team that everybody's overlooking in the SEC.
Michael, let me go back to the thing about the assistant coaches at Alabama, and I just want to get your theory on where this is. Is it that he has reached an age where there's not as much energy or fire in the belly? Is it that finally the difficulty, he's not an easy guy to work for? Is that starting to be more of a factor? Just give me your theory, because you put some interesting stuff out there about a school that has the resources where money is certainly not stopping any of this.
Yeah, well, if you watch Alabama on the sidelines and Nick Saban, some of his antics, I don't think he's lost any of that. He's not lost a step in that regard, certainly. I mean, that Tennessee game, the memes that came out of there were just classic. But, I think it is kind of how demanding it is. And he tried to get many offensive coordinators to come down there. And I don't know the specifics, but I do know who they eventually hired, and I was not impressed with it. And I know they tried to get Jeremy Pruitt, And for obvious reasons, that was unable to happen. So they brought in Kevin Steele, who I have a ton of respect for, but his defense at Miami last year was pretty dreadful. Now, that's probably says more about the Miami program than it does Kevin Steele, but I don't know. I think it is because he's on his, let's call it what it is. I don't know how long Nick Saban's got, but he can't have that much longer. And Kirby Smart in Georgia has obviously surpassed them. I think the real problem, and this is Nick Saban's own doing, so it is what it is, but he's essentially got every program in the SEC to fire their coach one, if not twice. And I'm a Tennessee grad. He's gotten us to fire our coach about 5 times. He's been so good. But what that has done is he has surrounded himself now with just elite coaches. When we're talking Kirby, Brian Kelly, Josh Heupel, even guys like Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze in his own division. There's just killers all around him. And I think he has raised the level of commitment to excellence in the SEC. So a credit to him, but eventually that was going to come back and get him. And I think we're at that point.
Very interesting stuff. I've really enjoyed listening to what you're putting out there. Other people who are watching this are saying the same thing. How do they hear you? Where do they need to go to do that?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So the show is That SEC Podcast, highest rated SEC show on Apple and Spotify. We're on YouTube, every podcast platform, or just search SEC Mike, and you'll see lots of stuff, lots of nonsense coming from me. I try to have fun, so I'm informative and fun. If I try to split that difference there.
Well, we do too. Just look at who I'm working with. Hey, promise me you'll come back on again sometime.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Michael, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Good interview. Some very interesting points that he brings out in this. Billy, thank you for setting that up last night. We'll go to the break. Got a few more things to talk about, maybe some reaction to what you've just heard. Stick around. We're coming back in about 2 minutes.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at bairdifference.com.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? How?
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
We are back. Really enjoyed having Michael Bratton on. Brings up some very interesting points, some of which I agree with, some of which I don't agree with, but that's part of the whole game of having opinions. So, Kelly, let's delve into the one that for me was incredibly interesting. Why do you think Nick Saban has had trouble in the coaching staff stuff when you know full well that there is not a resource on God's green earth that is not available to him?
Well, you don't like hearing secondhand stuff, George. I've heard a lot of secondhand things, and I'm not in the room, so I don't really know. I just know that some guys are hard to work for. I mean, it's just it's not.
We know.
Yeah, it's not an easy
Golden
deal.
Parrot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's when you're in a Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, like a coach Donnelly. Coach Donnelly wasn't easy to work for. I mean, those guys loved it, but like. Yeah, when you've got a demanding coach, that's kind of an old school guy that his dad was a coach that has had the success that he's had, and he's done it a certain way and it's not going to change. It takes a special guy. And if you're not willing to there's not a lot of coaches that are as tough. Let's just put it that way, as tough as they used to be. They're probably not going to listen to all that. They're probably not going to hear all that. And I don't know how he is with everybody, but that was I really enjoyed that interview with him. I've never heard of him, and Billy just sent some stuff over. But man, he had some intriguing things, and that was one of the things that you're bringing up to me. I don't know. Kevin Steele, I know, has done it for a long time. I think his defensive talent at Miami sucked. They're not very good, so I don't think that's. But he's been around forever. He got the kid from Notre Dame coming in there, Tommy Rees. So. I don't know. I mean, time will tell. We'll see what he does. But I think he was right in what he was saying. I think that it's not just because of Nick Saban anymore. I don't think that's just going to go over well because he brought it up. I mean, you've got Hugh Freeze, you've got Jimbo Fisher, you've got Brian Kelly, you've got Mark Stoops, you've got all these guys that have a track record of being pretty good coaches, and there are a lot of guys. I mean, Josh Heupel. Beat him last year. So I don't know if he's going down. It may be with his coaching staff. I don't know. But I know that it's kind of like the Tiger Woods effect, George, a long time ago. Tiger was, he was the best ball striker ever, but he was getting stronger. He was working out. Nobody was doing that. They were just having fun, going out and playing some golf. And then he started controlling the PGA Tour. And they're like, man, wait a minute. We better catch up with this guy. And I think that's kind of what's happened to Alabama football. He's put a lot of guys on the jobless list, and they've got to catch up with him. And I think that's what's happening. I think he hit the nail on the head on that.
Okay, but I'm gonna argue one point of this. Okay, first of all, I wasn't all that impressed with the Tommy Rees hire either. When you looked at Notre Dame's offense, little, shall we say, boring.
He brought his quarterback over too.
He sure did, and he's nothing to write home about either.
No,
he had more interceptions than touchdowns.
Yes. So But here's a point I'm going to make. Nick Saban is the only coach in America. Kirby Smart can't even do this, although he's getting close. To be able to say to a young rising assistant, yes, I'm a pain in the butt. Yes, I am tough to work for. Yes, there will be times where you hate me. There are times where you will behind my back throw the F-bomb. But I guarantee you, you stick with me, you'll get a head coaching job on the D1 level. It's guaranteed. True?
That is so true. That's so true. He's got a track record. I mean, he's got a track record of that. He's got a coaching tree. Obviously, Lane Kiffin was there. He's got guys that have been there, and he puts that in their head. He gives them the structure that they need, and it seems like when these coaches fall to the wayside, they go to Alabama like a Butch Jones to kind of
halfway house
career. Yeah, a halfway house, and he seems like he's all about that, and he's done that for not one but several coaches. So the guy knows what he's doing. Obviously, he's won 7 national championships, and he's been there a couple of more times, and he lost the one to Clemson. But you can't argue his track record, and all this remains to be seen. Time will tell about how this is going to go this year. But I do know this, like. I'm with Michael, and we've said this before. When you go through spring and you think you got 2 guys that you like, and then you go out and you get another guy, well, that's saying that the 2 guys, yeah, that's right. The 2 guys that you thought were going to do what you wanted them to do aren't really doing that. So we got to bring somebody else in, and he went and got a guy that he's familiar with.
Now, one of the X factors to this, Billy, is what I'll call the Lee Corso. Ready for this? Not so fast. Okay. This is a guy that about the time you think you've got him dead and buried, don't be sure of that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And
don't be sure of that.
And Mike said that. He said he keeps hearing, they're going to get back to playing bully ball. They're going to get back to the old Alabama. He does make a good counterpoint to that. Alabama hasn't been the same program in the last 2, maybe 3 years in terms of physicality. But then again, college football has changed. There's really no bully ball teams anymore.
Bryce Young was so good that the whole turn and give it to the tailback would have been a complete waste of Bryce Young's talent.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing, you all tell me if you buy this, one thing I have noticed there, they're more disorganized a year ago than I had seen in a while, which of course sent him into orbit.
It did.
I mean, it looked like at times stuff was coming out of his ears and it wasn't wax.
Yeah, the Tennessee game, I think, changed a lot for Alabama fans, for Alabama's program, and they're going to try to get back to being that bully. But, I mean, is it possible? He said Kirby Smart at Georgia has become the king of college football. You got Josh Heupel in Tennessee coming up your rear, too. So, it's not just Nick Saban and everybody else anymore. You can't.
It's looked like the last couple of years, though, as Tom Moore used to say, when you've got an identity, you're very predictable about what you're going to do. When you suck, you have no tendencies because you're trying to throw things against the wall and hope they stick. And that's kind of what it seems like what they had last year. They were just trying to rely on Bryce Young to beat people. And if you're not, like, he had weapons the year before. Like last year, he had a bunch of young receivers, and he didn't have the guys that he had the year before, and his offensive line was not very good. So, bully ball, I mean, I think Georgia still does bully ball. I think Ohio State can still do bully ball. They can line up and beat your brains in. I don't think Alabama could do that last year, and it's all about up front. We all know that. It starts on the offensive and the defensive lines, and they've always got a great defensive line. That's it seems like they grow kids from underneath Bryant-Denny Stadium to be defensive linemen. But offensive line-wise, they haven't been good for years now, and they can't. Like, I remember a game, and it might have been the Tennessee game or I can't remember, but They get down there on the goal line, and it takes them 4 plays to get it in. It might have been LSU to get it into the end zone inside the 5-yard line. When does that ever happen for an Alabama team? It just doesn't happen. So it starts up front, and they hadn't been very good in a while.
You brought up a game earlier that has always intrigued me, and it was, I think I'm right, Brian Harson's first year of his 2 at Auburn. So it looked like Auburn absolutely loaded the wagons. They're at home against Alabama. They knocked Bryce Young senseless, and he kept coming back for more. And the truth of it is, Alabama didn't deserve to win that game, but Bryce Young's brilliance at the end pulled their chestnuts out of the fire. And that's the first time for me that I said, whoa, there's been some slippage, because somebody lit a Newt Rockne up Auburn's you-know-what, and they played like their hair was on fire. And how Alabama won that game, well, I know how. It's called Bryce Young, and really nothing else.
No, nothing else. I mean, they were totally dominated. Like, and if Auburn's offense could have done anything, they win that game easily.
And Harsin might still be there.
Yeah, exactly. They couldn't. I mean, he's supposed to be an offensive guru, and they couldn't do anything. And that's one thing Auburn always has is great defensive linemen. They're like Alabama. They must grow them in that state, but they are. Yeah, it's amazing. And they were so dominant in that game. They should never have lost that game if their offense could have done anything. But that just shows you the talent of Bryce Young. And that's why Frank Reich came out and said he's the number 1 guy.
In the third quarter, it's
third right.
Without Bryce Young last year, Alabama, or say he gets hurt beginning of the season, they probably go 7-5.
Yeah, they don't have that luxury. They don't have that luxury.
But that also could be a good thing for them. You know, maybe they're more a balanced team, throwing it back to the Greg McElroy days, or McCarron, where the quarterback isn't the guy.
I'll also throw one more theory out there. Okay. And a lot of you will think this is nuts, but if you really want to look at what teams are going to do what in the SEC, look at the schedules. And if you see 3 brutally tough SEC games in a row, I'll show you a team that's not going to win the third one. When Ole Miss and Mississippi State, the year that they were like ranked 1 and 2 in the country, and everybody was getting excited about them, Ole Miss had a problem in that the third of 3 ridiculously tough games was at LSU, and they couldn't make it happen. On the college level, if you are asked to go to the mat 3 weeks in a row with really top flight competition,
good luck.
The third week, not so good. It's just my
agree with that. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. That's a good observation, George. Have you thought about that all night?
Oh, I'll tell you, it was Bo Wallace's, I guess, senior year at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking they're the favorite at LSU in that third game in 3 weeks.
I remember that, yeah.
And I remember thinking, I've been to LSU. That is a you-know-what.
You'd rather
play a place.
Oh, man.
You'd rather play LSU first out of those 3 games than third.
And you'd rather play them like in August in an inter-squad scrimmage.
At 11 a.m.
At 11 a.m., absolutely. Okay, we'll go to the break. In fact, look, Billy, at the SEC schedule and give me a team after the break that you think has 3 in a row where they're really good, but the third game, they're going to have a problem.
Okay.
Yes. Stat of the day, it's done. Thank goodness. Plaster bet of the day, you're about to win some money. So stick around. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Scholar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Final segment on a Wednesday. This week has flown by. Boy, it must be close to football season. It's time, though, first for Plaster's Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give them a call at 615-242-9000 or log on to bartdurham.com. Let's start by checking out what happened last night, and that's another W.
Arizona scored 3 in the bottom of the 8th, and I was cheering them on because I knew Kelly was trying to put a bunch of negative juju.
He was trying to sabotage you.
Yeah.
I did. I saw that, and I'm like, golly. And then I saw where the Blue Jays just honestly, I mean, what were they doing?
Who
Dodgers.
I know. Okay, Dodgers scored 4 in the 9th to tie, and scored a run in the 10th to win. Can you
That's
say
not supposed to happen in professional baseball?
Can you say bullpen issues? I can say bullpen issues.
That's the worst as a baseball fan when your team's bullpen sucks.
It's demoralizing.
It's just you could be up 5-0, but you get to the 7th inning and you're like, this is over because our bullpen sucks.
So in our commitment to excellence and our commitment to making you a bunch of money, this is tonight's selection. The Angels, with all this uncertainty about Ohtani, and they know they've got to win every chance they get. Number one, to avoid their GM, Perry Managian, trading Ohtani at the deadline early next week, but also trying to win enough to get a wild card berth, get Mike Trout back healthy, and make Ohtani think about staying with the Angels. There is a lot of pressure on that team right now, and Detroit is better, but Ohtani is an Angel.
They need some Angels in the outfield.
Thank you.
Gosh. I keep going back to what Danny said, though. Like in the Japanese culture, it's not good to get traded. So I'm sure Ohtani, I mean, has he gotten Americanized? I'm sure he probably doesn't want to get traded.
Who knows?
I figured since you were so into baseball, you had a formal relationship with him or something. I didn't know. I didn't know if you text him. Yeah, I didn't know if you text him or talked to him.
I've spoken to his interpreter.
He's the guy you need to talk to.
Okay. What team in the SEC that ought to be really good has a 3-game stretch that you don't think they can get out of unscathed. The plaster theory.
The plaster theory. I got the Missouri Tigers. They've got a stretch from late October to early November that is brutal. It starts October 21st at home against South Carolina. Right, so that's probably the easiest out of the three. You say easy, no game is easy. That's the first one, South Carolina. The next, they get a bye week, so it's not back-to-back-to-back.
Oh, this is...
But November 4th,
cupcake.
at Georgia.
Okay.
And then November 11th, Tennessee at home.
I think there are better ones out there.
I mean, Georgia,
Kelly, I was not impressed with his research.
Not impressed either, Billy. I forgot Missouri was in the SEC, to be honest with you. Good gracious. Let's go. Well, I mean, roll with something else, Hoss. I mean,
So
Missouri. When he brought up Missouri, I'm like, is he serious, George?
I don't know. I was disappointed.
Hey, that's a docking pay right there for
It
something
could be.
ignorant right
Could
there.
be garnishing of wages.
Garnishing of wages.
Billy, have you rebounded yet? You're so proud of your little guide there.
Arkansas's got a tough stretch.
Uh-huh.
A&M and Arlington, at Ole Miss, and then at Alabama.
Why didn't you say that one to begin with?
That's better than Missouri.
Better.
Like, good gracious.
They've got
Billy.
South Carolina, then they got 3 straight open dates, and then they go play Hassler's Barber College.
George, I would say
that.
George, I would say that's up for him getting suspended, but we need Billy so bad. He's got a lot of leverage on us, but I would like to suspend him at some point.
Yeah, but what told me earlier today that if we fire him, the show's dead.
Hey, it's like what Saquon Barkley said about his leverage. He said, I could say F you to the Giants.
He could, but he don't get paid.
You know what?
That's the other side of it.
We may be back to the...
I like my wages, right?
You, though.
I can see a scenario where we have to bring in, what's the department? Human Resources.
Human Resources.
See where we may have to have some sensitivity training. Either way.
Suspension.
You're for suspension. I might be for some training. Billy, either way, you're hurting.
I've taken in some water.
You've taken on some water here in the last 5
But
minutes.
he's got a rebound, George, because he can go with Tony Basilio because Tony loves him, but he'd have to move to Knoxville.
And I don't think that'd play well with the fan base up there. The other thing, Billy, neither Kelly or I was impressed with your first answer.
I've figured that out.
I think you need to fall on the sword and just say, I could have done better.
What about the second one, though?
The second one was good. That's what we were
the second
looking
one was
for.
good.
He tried to feed us a load of crap, and we weren't buying it.
This is really bad to say, and I know that they've been in the SEC for years, but it still doesn't seem like Missouri's in the SEC. I mean, I get it. I know they are, but like
Mike said it. Didn't they make back-to-back SEC championships?
They did.
Kelly, if you will, give out your phone number, and we'll get some Missouri fans to call you.
Not going to do it.
Not going to do it. Okay. Tomorrow on the show, let me see if I got this right. Let me pull up my little notepad.
Trusty legal pad.
Yeah. Tomorrow on the show, you will hear the first hour, basically, of the Wilson Bank and Trust Sports Speaker Series, where we had David Cutcliffe, Philip Fulmer, Watson Brown, and Tony Barnhart. If you haven't watched it, tomorrow, 2:00, you need to be here, because if you love college football, you will love that. And then during the 3:00 hour, the one guy who was not able to be part of the panel because his plane was not going to get in time, Bill Hancock, who runs the college football playoff system, he'll be during the 3:00 hour. Man, if you love college football, this is your show. We'll see you tomorrow.